It's 8 p.m. and we're in Sao Paulo. And today is July 8th, 2026. The title of today's live stream, which I posted on YouTube, is Real Jiwasa as a Biomarker in Social Psychology. In the text, I only used biomarker in psychopathology, okay? So in social psychopathology. So we're going to talk about that real Jiwasa, and I'll show you something about collectives with this biomarker. How can a biomarker help you try to detect in a person or even yourself if you're experiencing real Jiwasa within a group or not? First, to begin, this is a provocation. A provocation for researchers, a provocation for psychiatrists, a provocation for psychologists. It's a provocation. With this provocation, with this live stream, I try to get these people, educators too, to create drawings and experiments to try to detect and help people and help children with this tendency, or to help groups to distance themselves or isolate a little bit leaders who have this tendency. What is the tendency? To hijack collectives. Why? Jiwasa is about collectivity. That's an important thing you'll understand. We played now, Brazil played. It was a game where our team, Brazil, simply doesn't have real Jiwasa. The team's interest is in monetization, players and coach. I think the coach earns 5 million a month. So it's about monetization. When the interest is in monetization, you're already in false Jiwasa. There's no way you can have collectivity in false Jiwasa. You can perform. Performing is something different from Jiwasa. Performing, right? Everyone in their highest attributes comes together and performs. It does, but there is no true Jiwasa. So what is real Jiwasa and what is false Jiwasa? True Jiwasa is when you are in a group of people and suddenly there is a different need to do something, and the group of people starts to come together and do that thing. It's a group, everyone together. We're in this together. Yes, but look, we're in this together, but the situation has changed. The rules have changed. Nobody knows what the rules are. There was a situation. We have to resolve the situation. Then this group of people gets together. In this moment of real hardship, a false hardship appears. And every crisis is a good time to monetize. This is false hardship. This comes and is used by our economy. And it's very important for you to know this. People take advantage of the crisis to monetize, to exploit the poor even more, to exploit those who are already being damaged in their emotions, their faith, and their security. So, Jiwasa Real as a biomarker of social psychopathology is important for us to know. People who only want to monetize have moved beyond the realm of social psychopathology. It's not about we're together, I'm making your money, I'm taking advantage of you. And we're going to see this in various ways. Sometimes the creation of collectives. It used to be funny because our collectives were formed by people who came together for a common interest, or one group that came together to pursue the interests of others. Oh, I have a product I'm going to sell. This product cures this or that. And people would come together, and suddenly, with a shared interest, they think, look, I'm going to help you, and I'm selling and connecting with the community. It's DNA doing this, it's a human being doing this. Today we have fake groups, groups formed by algorithms. The algorithms create a bubble. The algorithms create a bubble of people with a certain profile, and then release it. So in a short time, the algorithm already has groups not formed in reality, but formed based on group trends. How these people react to this video, how they type, how they react before making purchases. You know, it has your data and everyone else's data from the entire planet, and this data keeps circulating. Clusters in groups, and I can create groups of algorithms that bring people together. Look, groups. Especially when online games started. Online games have chat groups. They also create profile groups. These profile groups tend to form groups. And in this trend, the bubble appears, the algorithm comes and creates a bubble. 1 million people, 2, 3, 4, 5 million people. You may notice that some politicians have 10 million followers, 20 million female followers. These are bubbles, bubbles with common interests. These bubbles, if Jiwasa is fake, what do we have? Everyone is speaking in a common way, in a personal jargon, and the leader doesn't change. When Jiwasa is fake, that's a big tip for you. The leader doesn't change. The leader remains the same, monetizing normally, and when it's not monetizing, the algorithm itself is hijacking attention time. This is a very important thing. We go into a group and say, hey, Jackson, how will I know if it's a real Jiwasa? I repeat, we're together. If the we're together is real, if this group is truly together, when I need help and I really do need it, the group will help me. So when it's fake, the group is simply creating fantasies for you that you're part of the group. But in truth, it's about winning your heart and mind. It's about winning your attention. It's about winning your emotions so that you act, so that you work towards your goals of the group. And the group won't help you unless it will help you if you're working for the group. So did you notice the real Jiwasa with biomarkers is a very sophisticated thing. Oh, right, you talked but didn't say much. How are we going to detect this? Look, in a simple way, an idea for an experiment for a psychologist, for a psychiatrist, for educators is the following. Create groups. Actually, I heard this a lot. I don't know who said it. I forgot who said it. That sometimes adults, when children are in the room, children are 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old, a group of children between 4 and 6 years old are in the room, and suddenly an adult comes in and says, look, this is the rule, this is the problem, no rules are important, no rules are important because these children end up creating the rules. And sometimes when I go to play with them, at 6 or 7, I don't like it as much because they become more apprehensive. But at 4 or 5 years old, we're playing and I'm changing the rules, and always trying to trick the child to such an extent that they realize I'm trying to trick them. So they react and say, you're trying to trick me. I try to get the maximum performance from that child so they feel that I'm changing the rules to get a better result. And sometimes I succeed and the child starts to detect, whoa, hold on a minute, the rule is important and the rule has to protect us. And this commentator or woman who commented on this said the following: let the children regulate themselves. Let the children create their own rules. Let them change the rules because now, look, now they're not crying. Things went wrong, didn't they? This change of rules, this dynamic of creating rules, self-regulation and creating new rules is part of child development. It's part of learning. Having a rule, but this rule wasn't clear. We'll make the rule as things go along. So that's an important thing, and the child develops that profile. How can we target those who don't have that ability? For example, if we create a game, I don't know how, create some online games or games from when the child enters school until university, let's think a lot about politicians, religious leaders, political leaders, and leaders in the economy, the financial market. Usually the level of people who do evil in society are these religious leaders, political leaders, and leaders in the financial market. That's where a lot of evil is. They are almost representatives of evil. Honestly speaking, when they do evil, it's very serious. Other small social leaders, when they manage to do something bad, we can block them in some way. But these leaders, when it comes to things like the economy, the financial market, they create things, talk about banks, they create Huge deviations from one side to the other. Religious leaders create masses of people who totally vote for this one and don't vote for that one, or create enemies to create very strong religious masses. And political leaders do the same thing. You'll see that some religious or political leaders come to power and don't relinquish power. They don't allow for a change of leader. This is a symbol of false collectivity. A true collectivity appreciates the flights of birds that go from one side to the other. Sometimes you are in a place. I also live in Joinville, and there from time to time we see those trees flying, and you see that sometimes one is in front. The leader keeps changing positions. The leadership changes because the group is real. When the group is real, when the thing is real, when the collective is real, the leadership changes. It keeps changing places because there is a collective. There is a sense of good for us. When the leadership doesn't change, the group is false. The group is false. And that's what we're working on today. So perhaps if you are a researcher, educator, the psychiatrist has some idea of a game where each member of the group benefits individually, but at some point the rules change and each person starts benefiting personally. Suddenly, all those rules change again at this moment of change, at this moment of catastrophe. You'll realize that whoever in the group loses or starts to forego gains for the benefit of the group, when someone starts to give up and not gain as much because the group needs it, that person is experiencing a true game, the kind where I give up more so that everyone benefits. Look how difficult this is. How can you give up winning so that everyone else can do well? This is not a practical thought for the financial market, nor for politicians, nor for religious leaders. How will he stop collecting money? But the member is focused on offerings. The religious leader basically builds his house of gold here, promising that the member will have a house of gold there after death. That's a religious leader. He will try to establish a structure with you, telling you who will help you, but he will hold you back in some things that digital bubbles also hold you back in. For example, to hold me back in a digital bubble, in a fake Jiwasa. Let's go. Let's create a fake Jiwasa in a digital bubble. On the internet, the Jiwasa is fake. The bubble is there. It has rules, it has a mission, it has enemies, creating enemies all the time. There are rewards when you do things, little smiles, little likes. There's your own language, there's jargon from that group, there's an avatar, there's a tribe, there's a stage. It gives the feeling that you're in control, gives the feeling of being knowledgeable and important, but it's not a bubble. That's fake. This is very important because the divas of artificiality make you change the rules, things keep changing, and you get tangled up in the process. And you're the one who ends up understanding the rules. The important thing about understanding the rules is this. Sometimes you're an employer or part of a company, or you're creating a group. I'm studying and I don't quite understand how to differentiate between people who will have this collectivity and those who won't. I also can't look at a person and know if this person is nice and whether they will have a collectivity or not. If we delve into neuroscience, some good studies are looking at the individual and seeing if that individual has empathy within resonance imaging. In resonance imaging, on average, what is the brain activity? Which brain areas are activated when the individual has empathy and when they don't have empathy within resonance imaging? Someone comes up to me and there's a game. Are we going to form a group? There's no way to resolve this right now. It's impossible to know. There's no way. And another thing, when the rules are clear in a company or a game, there are people who, even without feeling empathy, manage to simulate empathy. It's like this. The rule is this for this company. The rule is this for this church. The rule is this for this ideology. So am I going to work within the rules? Yes, but I I'm only going to work for my own benefit. So I won't have to back down. I'll always go against the law, against the rules. Nobody will be able to say that I'm against the rules, but I'll perform at a high level because I really don't have diplomatic reservations with anyone. I'll sweep everyone under the rug if they're within the rules, or if they break the rules, I'll hide it. But I'll keep overcoming, accumulating, monetizing, gaining power, enough power to change the rules. Oops, we're in Brazil. We're in Brazil where monetary power changes the little rules. You understand? That's the problem we're having. People who can't understand the collective change the rules. There are some politicians who basically, usually when you go to the far right on that spectrum, basically the far right politician he falls into, he's not always very rich. What he wants to do is use the structure of the state, which is all of us, to say that the state is bad, that we are all not bad, to say that only the state has taxes. So he uses the entire structure of the state and makes the rich richer to collect bribes. Typically, a far-right congressman or senator will enrich the already wealthy and receive bribes. What form does the bribe take? A diamond necklace, a watch, a trip, or money in a suitcase? A bribe. It's a bribe, but it helped the master bank. It helped, I don't know, it sells. It comes from a privatization for a much lower price. The privatizations in Brazil, who is buying? I find it so strange that they are buying, and sometimes it's companies buying, or with funds that nobody knows who is buying these funds they buy. And actually, it's the right time to buy. Often they borrow money from the state itself to buy things, usually at a profit. Fake Jiwasa. Yes, they've screwed us over. If we think of the state as me, as you, adding up all Brazilian citizens, we have the state, the nation state. Each body is a territory. All bodies are territories, the national territory. But when you go with people who can't enter the real Jiwasa, they want this Brazilian state, they want to bite. And those who are close to this lack of perception of the collective come close to their pathologies. I can't say anything about psychopathology. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to say anything about that. So I'm just speculating on this. These individuals simply won't look at society well. These individuals will simply look at how much I earn here, how much I have there. And if someone is harmed, oh, I'm sorry, they don't feel anything. They don't feel anything because they don't have a collective. So with today's live stream, it's interesting for you to know when you have how do you realize that this group of people, 3, 4, 5 friends or colleagues or whoever just met at a bar on a beach somewhere, everyone helps each other? You'll know when something new happens, the rules change, and everyone is helping each other. And when someone falls, everyone supports them to get up, and the leadership changes. True leadership changes. Everyone helps everyone. We're all in this together. Nobody lets go. But it's not that nobody lets go because of a change in leaders. No, nobody lets go because of a change in leaders. The leaders are changing. Everyone is a leader at some point. It's difficult, isn't it? You'll see in political or even religious matters, leadership is always fixed. Leadership is always fixed. It's so-and-so, not so-and-so. So-and-so is the leader. And it won't change. It won't change because Jiwasa is false. It's not the real Jiwasa. And we had to detect these elements from early childhood. What's the objective? To help people who can't perceive the collective. Man, a 4 or 5-year-old child doesn't perceive the collective. They get home, the family needs something, and they simply don't perceive the family's need. While the group is already fixing something, that child is isolated and doesn't notice. There's no factor of perception. There's no perception of the collective needing something. The collective, I always tell you, is what's between us. It's a force that's between us. It's not in any one of us. It's between us. And often the religious side is very cool because it gets close to that. God is a powerful force that's among us, not being any one of us. Jiwasa. It's something we help each other with, but none of us is the super, the Messiah, the myth. Not at all. When you talk about a myth sent to the Messiah, it's a lie, it's false, but it creates bubbles. Another bubble, and what will this bubble create? Our mission, our rule, our enemy is this one. Now the enemy is that one. So I'm always adding new narratives, new enemies. Look, in 72 hours, this will happen. In 72 hours, you hijack our cognition of. You predict the future and you get excited, you get thrilled, you get this enormous tension. Why? Because the bubble tricked you. The false bubble, the bubble that doesn't change its leader, the bubble that's monetizing for someone, monetizing votes, monetizing money, monetizing something, and suddenly you're trapped in a bubble. So we have to try to start getting out of these bubbles, create your own groups. But the group where you lead now, this child leads, now that person, groups that interact, groups that take care of each other, each individual, a true group. I find it very interesting because sometimes we start talking like this. Our judges, the highest positions in our state. And you'll see these people and realize that when someone starts to defraud the state, which is the group of all of us, there are people who want to undo that. All of us together, the Brazilian state, people who want to privatize the Brazilian state, just like privatizing Vale, privatizing water treatment here in São Paulo, water distribution in São Paulo. Privatize it. Whoever buys it wins. They're in a worse job, and the state gets smaller, smaller, smaller. If it gets smaller, it's controlled, it's hijacked. And if I hijack the state, I take the state, and now I'm going to forgive the farmers' debts, even though they haven't lost anything. Am I going to forgive the debt, forgive it to make the rich richer and for me to collect bribes? That's the underlying idea. I let the rich get richer and the richest of them get bribes. And this hijacked state can sell things outside of Brazil, inside Brazil, or even to the richest Brazilians. I hijack, I defraud the state to make the rich richer and collect bribes. It's a simple game, but when are we going to see this? Hold on. The collective is the Brazilian state. You are part of the collective. I am part of the collective. Am I going to harm the state? No, no. Today, it's true that this little rule, you understand? You're not going to harm the collective. Okay, but how can we see this from a young age, from 5, 6, 7 years old, and see that these individuals are potentially individuals who will harm the state? That this profile of this individual, a public servant, a judge, a prosecutor of senators, representatives, presidents, councilors, mayors. Look, this profile will harm the community of this city. It will harm the municipality. What game are we going to play? What test are we going to do? If I do a test, whoever studies what empathy is will answer nicely, will give the right smile, will make the right gesture. The other day I talked to a guy and he said, today I talked to a researcher, a psychiatrist researcher, and he said, Jackson, some people know how to lie and then they get away with it. There are politicians who don't even know how to lie. There are religious leaders who don't even know how to lie. He's simply in a state of compulsive behavior, one lie after another, leaving no time to react. If you try to verify if it's a lie or the truth, you lose the momentum. It's a whirlwind of lies, a constant state of turmoil, lying, lying, and lying all the time. And he lies to provoke another lie. He just keeps lying. And today he's highlighting something in the public eye. He keeps lying about it, giving new interpretations of facts. So he distorts the facts. He keeps lying. It's such a huge turbulence that you become a hostage to trying to find out if it's true or false. They are toxic leaders. religious, political, and financial leaders. In finance, I find this fantastic. The financial market is so structured with leaders in the financial market, the best economists, all that stuff. People who have absolutely no desire for the population to do well. It's simply about increasing GDP, regulated infraction, and remaining within a set of rules and regulations. Rules and regulations are part of reason and logic. Reason and logic. You have intelligence to do that. Our intelligence is DNA. Economist, you know a lot about economics. Are you looking at each individual DNA within Brazilian territory, or are you only looking at figures, only money? If you're only looking at money, you're part of those who hinder progress. You're not helping anyone. There's DNA, there's a body, and there's territory. Each has its needs, and these needs must be met. That's why I say that the body and territory, as the unit of the state, and the body and territory as the minimum unit of the state, must have citizen-centered DNA. Economists don't want to know about citizen-centered DNA. They don't want to know about this retail level BDC. It will cause inflation. Inflation is the misuse of this. Inflation is the misuse of parliamentary amendments that are occurring, the financial diversions made by many fintechs that have no proper regulation. This is the most important issue we need to address. So when you have a retail CBDC accepted by our economies, allowing, for example, retirees to be paid through the CBDC and employee severance pay to be paid through the retail CBDC, all companies will like that. Will the employer have fewer monthly expenses and be able to raise the employee's salary? I don't believe so. Because he's going to do the following. He won't hire an employee because if the employee isn't well paid, they won't come. So the employee will qualify themselves, and only with a higher salary will they be hired, because they already have an income from the state for being a retail BDC, Banco de Desenvolvimento de Contribuintes, Bank of Contribuintes Development Center, for being a citizen, for being a territorial body, for being a minimal unit of the state, and being a minimal unit of the state, they have a stable income in themselves. I go to the United States quite often, and there I see the number of homeless people increasing in a civilization that only uses money. Breathing is money. It's without money. It's a false money, a false union. So what are we going to do? We're going to wage war, because if I wage war, war is profitable. And if it's profitable, I own shares in that company. I earn more. I make more profit. The GDP increases. The GDP increased. I earn more, I make more profit. It's all about money. It's all about monetization. Just monetization doesn't have money. Look at what the Brazilian national team did. The game they played, that's all without money. Everyone is maximizing their profits. Each player is maximizing their bets. So it's impressive. We have to turn the page. How do you turn the page? Your group. When you're the leader of your group, do you let your leadership waver? Do you let someone else lead a conversation, a speech, an opinion, an observation, a way of being? Do you respect the other person as your axis, as a territory different from yours? And do you use diplomacy to relate to others? And then you'll see that this true diva can be a very interesting indicator. It's about identifying people with problems. Look, neurodivergent individuals, autism, and other neurodivergences that share the same psychopathology. If someone is a psychopath, they're born that way. If they're well educated, they won't go astray. They might stay in the bathroom and not feel any empathy, but they'll develop. They're out there in society. So they'll look at the rules. Will they see the rule or will they follow the rule? That's fine. But we need to go a step further. Have the confidence that you have to trust in others, because if you fall, they'll pick you up. If we fall, whoever remains standing will lift one of us up. That's fundamental. This is Jiwasa. And not everyone has this sense, a kind of maternal sense, the sense of embracing everything, the sense of we're truly together, of no one lets go of anyone's hand, but leadership changes. But the leadership, so we have a group there that won't have, it's not a leader who is creating enemy, and more enemy, and ranking enemies on missions, and this 72-hour mission, I don't know what, all these lies just to deceive you, or even on social media, always throwing around what you think is true with me. Leveraging that to hijack your attention, to keep you in a bubble where an algorithm controls you. Be careful. Things have changed too much. There are too many algorithms, too much artificial intelligence controlling our DNA intelligence, our logical reasoning and emotion. So you have to start withdrawing from these groups. Life is short. Algorithms will remain. Artificial intelligence will remain. You won't live past 120 years old. Your life is short. So it's time for you to look, choose your groups, select the people. Oh, look, this group, this person who is richer, thinks they are smarter and controls and dominates everyone in our house, in our family. Does wealth mean critical thinking? It has nothing to do with it. Oh, but they use wealth to control their speech and mannerisms and so on. So get out of here. Get really out of here. And trying to see this provocation for researchers, clinicians, doctors, educators. How are we going to detect from children? Know a test, know something to... Man, this guy can't be a politician, can't be a religious leader. He can't be a judge, because he'll use the position to profit, to put his wife as a lawyer or his son as a lawyer and win the case indirectly one way or another. Or winning online contests for city hall positions. This is happening all the time. These are people who are exploiting the state for their own benefit. The state is collective. It's all of us. If someone is exploiting the state for their own benefit, it's in the fake league, it's in the monetization. Basically, it's the far right or far left, I don't know what, that's only interested in profit, only wants to stay in power, wants to monetize. And that's what a good part of politicians and a good part of groups are. Folks, that's what I wanted to leave you with. Pay attention, look at your group, how it operates, and how you can improve your group to make it more flexible so that leaders can move and the interests are well served. We're all in this together. Big hug to everyone. See you next Wednesday.